Welcome back to Nobody Asked Though, a new channel dedicated to statement analysis. I am Nancy No Friends, and we are starting with Nichol Kessinger's first interview. It's not an interrogation, it is an interview. That is quite clear. Last video, my first video, I'd like to say we dove straight in, but we didn't. I spent a lot of time sort of introducing statement analysis, what we're going to do on this channel, what my focus is going to be, what I'd like to do. And I just want to dive right into this one. So we only really got through her first sentence. I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June, might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And then I've gone away and I've just had a couple of notes that I've made about that. And I just wanted to check Kevin's language with this. So, now where is it? Okay, so let's just start with blah, 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 blah. Timeline of your getting to know Chris, how you guys met, where you met, all those things. And let's just run. I'm not going to ask you any specific questions unless I think it's necessary. I'll let you just tell me your story. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially. Now, the notes that I had here, I think I met him, not we met. I met him. However, because what this would indicate, okay, if we analyze this, the word we shows unity and togetherness, all right? And pronouns are never wrong. So if it's I, then it's that person. If it's we, they were not alone. It indicates both, if speaking about two people. I think I met him, not we met, which would indicate to me she met him. They didn't meet, which would indicate that she was aware of him previously. So she was aware of him. Maybe she knew who he was. She'd seen him around. Maybe she was aware that he worked there, but she had not seen him there yet. And she hadn't met him. And then she met him. So then I met him because it was an anticipation. Does that make sense? So because there was an anticipation of her meeting him, then she met him, right? Not we met. We met kind of indicates like neutral, like even. Does that make sense? We met. No one's on a pedestal. No one's anticipating. It's just we met. They met at the same time. We met. But I met him just indicates like emphasis. So I think I met him might indicate that there was prior knowledge of him and that there was some anticipation. And this is why I explained in the last analysis video, or the first video, when I hadn't written down his questions and his language, and I had just written down her statement and her answer, because he introduced that language. So if I go back, I've been doing some more notes since then. Where is it? Okay, so let's just start with like a timeline of your getting to know Chris, how you guys met, where you met. So how you guys met, right? Where you met together, both. All those things. And let's just run, and I'm not going to ask you specific questions unless I think it's necessary. I'll let you just tell me your story. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially. So I met him is cancelled out now. I can't analyze that because he's contaminated that answer with his own language. He introduced that language. He said in his question how you met him, not how you guys met, which is what he said first, and he should have stuck with. He shouldn't have stuck with that. He shouldn't have said this at all. He should have said, okay, choose your own words, start wherever you like, tell me what happened. That's what he should have said. But he didn't say that. So because he didn't say that, he should have at least not said that. How you met him. Because then she said, I think I met him. That's not her language. Okay? So that kind of gives you an example of that straight off the bat. How wonderful. How wonderful is that? Okay. So I met him is cancelled out of the analysis now. We can still put it in. We can still analyze it. But we have to now note and acknowledge that that language was introduced by Kevin. That is not Nichole's own language, okay? And this is why it's so important that language is not introduced by the interviewer, by the questioner. You let the subject choose their own language. The only way we can analyze their statement is if it's their statement, if it's their language. And a lot of time I see, there's not that many channels. Well, actually, you know what? This is increasingly becoming more common now. I'm seeing a lot of behavioral analysis is, I would say, more common. But I'm seeing a lot more statement analysis and deception detection, which is great. That's fantastic. However, again, like I said, if it's not done properly, it's dangerous. If you analyze something incorrectly and and it's important, like it's professional, it's official, you can destroy someone's career, you can destroy someone's life. And if you've made a mistake, then you've made a mistake and you've just destroyed someone's career and someone's life and you've made a mistake. So it's best used to show where to dig, to show where there's sensitivity, to then push and dig and find more information, find more evidence that then can, get you a confession or get you solid evidence that will secure, a case in a trial or whatever you need. But yeah, it shouldn't, I see a lot of people analyzing courtroom statements, interview statements, and they're not checking the language of the questioner, of the interviewer. And so their statement is contaminated, which means that they're going to make a mistake. Like it's not going to be accurate. And I see them analyzing things where the language has been introduced. That's not that person's language. You can't analyze that as that person's language. It's not their language. So that is so important. Let's get serious, I guess. This is just a little bit of fun. This is for entertainment purposes. Like I said in the last video, I suppose I'm going to have to say it in every video. Everything that I say in this content, in these videos, in this video, in the next video, in every video is my opinion. Anyone who has not been found judicially guilty is judicially innocent. Okay, so there we go. There's my disclaimer. This is all alleged. This is all my opinion. This is all just analysis, commentary, entertainment purposes. Okay. So I did have that in my notes from the first video. I met him. And like I said, that would indicate to me prior knowledge, what did I say? Anticipation, okay? But it's not her language. So we can put that in there. We can make a note of it because if it continues to show up when it's not been introduced later in the analysis, it might become a pattern, but right now that is introduced. It's not hers. All right. So, where's my notes? Here we go. it was instead of we were, she says. So I made a note here because when I recorded those videos prior to the first one I've done, because I wanted to redo them, I had a lot of information that sort of came to me as I was reading it. So I might have to go back through those videos and then insert anything I've left out, because it wasn't written down in my notes, because it just came to me as I was doing the video. Because this is what happens when you go over something again, more will pop out to you, more will you'll find more in your analysis. So this is where her narrative starts of her image. And so far, I'm only, I think altogether, transcription-wise and analysis-wise, I'm only approximately 20 minutes into the video, maybe 17 minutes. It could be like 11. I don't know. I've been doing it for months and months and months and months and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I'm only for several minutes in. So it feels like I should be a lot further in than I am. But like I said, we are going deep. We are going in depth and thorough. And it is astounding. It is astounding how many times this will come up. And this does come up, because it seems like there's two recurring themes that I've seen so far. Well, two main recurring themes. There are others, and we will go through this. I do have a little notebook. The notes that I'm taking on this are so extensive. There just is more and more and more. And I'm filling up books. Like I had a book set aside, like a little book. And I was like, oh, I'll write down sort of repeated phrases, repeated terms, like narratives that repeat, patterns that repeat. And it ended up filling up the entire book. So it's crazy. So once we've analyzed all of this, I am noting all of these things. We are going to go back and we're going to go over all of the patterns, all of the themes that are showing up in this again and again and again, because they're going to show her main concerns and what's on her mind. And so far, what's on her mind, just from the first sentence, is her image. And her image that she continually pushes through this, it will come up. It's going to come up in the next sentence, she says even, is her, I am innocent. I am a victim. I am good. I am, moral. I am kind. I am so caring and thoughtful and considerate of others. And I'm such a good person. And I'm so innocent in all of this. This is what she's pushing over and over again. And when you see someone, what we would call persuading, persuasion has a need to persuade. So if they're persuading you of something or trying to persuade you of something, it's because they need to. If it was, things just come across in language. When someone's speaking truthfully, these narratives, they come out, but they're truthful, they're genuine, they're organic. You can see someone's genuine concern, their genuine priorities. These ones, hers, are forced, and it's obvious that they're forced, and we'll go over it when it happens. Now, I didn't want to spend too much time before the analysis in this video, but I did want to go over those couple of things because I picked them up from the last sentence, or couple of sentences that we did, the first couple that we did. So I think I'm going to leave this one alone now. We can always come back to it later, and I can always insert it later in, I think I'll do a playlist or something in the timeline. So the next sentence, now I believe I've actually started writing down Kevin's comments here as well. It was just the first one I didn't write down. And I actually did miss the first bit of the interview before he says, okay, start, like, tell me your timeline, blah, blah, blah. Because I saw it in Veriscope's video and I was like, oh, I didn't do that bit. And she does say a couple of things in there that indicate certain things that I think are worthy of an analysis and do add to the sort of because she's already planting the seeds of the couple of things that she says. So I'm we'll analyze that either in this video or the next one. We'll see what happens. The last video ended up an hour long and I only did a couple of sentences. So let's get into it, I guess. I feel so ridiculous because no one's watching these. So it's just, I feel strange. I'm sure, you know, maybe when someone subscribes, I'll be like, hey, I'll actually have someone to talk to. Okay. She says, he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. Okay, so I've actually gone down and started, after that first sentence, I've started breaking it down sort of sentence by sentence. So anytime, it's hard when you're transcribing someone speaking because there's no literal punctuation, like there's no full stops and commas and stuff like people use when they're writing. So I've just sort of inserted full stops. Well, I haven't inserted full stops, but I kind of finished sentences where they kind of sound like they makes sense that they would finish. And I've just sort of gathered words together and formed them into sort of short sort of sentences, like sentence-like structures. Okay. So yeah, that's where I've stopped this one. So he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. So there's so much in here. So I've broken it down. Let's go through it. Firstly, she doesn't say that she didn't know he was married or had kids. She doesn't say that. So I believe that she did say that. She did know that, okay? Because we believe what they tell us. And she's not telling us that she didn't know that. So I believe her. I believe that she did know that. She's talking her way around it by saying he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger, is implying that she didn't know he was married because he wasn't wearing a ring. But that's not what she says. What she says was he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. Now, this on his finger part was bothering me. It was bothering me, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't put my finger on it. And I think I know why now. Okay, so it's like he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. So she's not telling us that she knew he was married, right? So that's the first thing. But what backs that up, I think, that she did know he was married, is she says he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. Not that he didn't have one. So if you were trying to tell someone that if you were trying to give the impression that you didn't know someone was married without saying it because it's a blatant lie and your brain doesn't want to tell a blatant lie, you could say he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. Well, where else would it be? He didn't have a wedding ring. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring. Okay. No, that's not what she said. She said he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. He didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. So he had one, but it wasn't on his finger where it should be to show people that he's married. Where I would see it, I'm being Nicole right now, where I, Nicole, would see it on his finger where it's supposed to be and know he was married and back off, because of course, I'm not trying to like steal someone's husband, because I'm so good and I'm so moral and I'm so innocent and I didn't even know and I didn't do anything, right? So that's why it bothers me, and it backs up her not saying that she didn't know he was married. That like emphasizes that. So I believe she did know he was married. She very, very, very much knew. She 100% knew he was married. 100% before she met him, okay? Allegedly, in my opinion. He didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring. He didn't wear a wedding ring. He didn't have a wedding ring on, no, all different ways you could say it. He didn't have a wedding ring on his finger is the words that she chose. It's unexpected. It's not how, if you think about how you would say you didn't know someone was married, you'd probably just say, I didn't know he was married. And if someone said, how did you not know he was married? Say, well, he didn't have a wedding ring on. Like, he didn't wear a wedding ring. Yeah, that's probably the most efficient way you could say that. The most expected and efficient way. That's not what she says, which shows that there's a problem. It's sensitive because of the law of economy, which we went through last time. The shortest distance between 2 points. She's going around. She's going around and around and around, dancing around this instead of just saying, I didn't know he was married. That's not what you've said. It's not what you've said. Where else would you have a wedding ring, right? If not on your finger. So why did she add this? Did she perhaps always check men's fingers for wedding rings? It's another possibility. When she went out, when she was, you know, in bars or just out and about, and she would meet or see men, would she check for wedding rings on their fingers? Maybe she did, because that's something that she mentions. It's important. She chose to say that. So does she check men's fingers for wedding rings because she's constantly looking for men or something? So every man she meets, she checks his finger to see if he's married. Not that it matters, so why bother? But that's a possibility. But it does back up the fact that she knew he was married because there was no ring on his finger. Not that he didn't have one. And also, again, she did not say that she didn't know he was married. Now, I don't think he did wear a wedding ring at work. I'm pretty sure I heard this in one of the interviews, or it came up in the case evidence or something, because, oh, that's right, because he lost a lot of weight from this Thrive thing and he started working out. And when he lost all this weight, his wedding ring didn't fit anymore. So he stopped wearing it to work. He stopped wearing it. So the fact that she mentions it is important, like I said, because she chose to say it. She chose those words. Did she know he was married because she had looked him up online after meeting him somewhere prior to work? Now, in the last video, what her language indicated or allowed for the possibility that she actually knew who he was beforehand. She knew of him before she started working there, before she met him at work. So this would be how she knew he was married, because she knew who he was before. That's what the language is indicating to me, okay? In my opinion, allegedly. Is she expecting someone to ask why she didn't know he was married, or how did she not know he was married or something? Did he keep it somewhere in particular when he was at work, like his locker, etc., or did he leave it at home? I think he left it at home because he'd lost weight and it didn't fit. I'm pretty sure he left it at home because that's the reason he didn't wear it. He wasn't getting to work and taking his ring off or anything because he was looking for an affair. He lost weight and it didn't fit anymore, and he wasn't wearing it at that time. So next part of the next sort of sentence. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. And this is so ridiculous. And I can't remember my analysis on this, but let's go through it. And is just like a cumulative. It's not but. So it's not refuting anything that came before it. It's just adding to it. And it's sort of continuing. So it's kind of like an additional. Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. Sometimes I have trouble explaining things efficiently. I have some trouble with my memory, and it's embarrassing. And it's frustrating sometimes too. Okay, so I've got a little note here. Every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. Every time. He didn't tell me he was in a relationship. So she doesn't say he didn't tell her. He didn't tell her every time. Okay, so every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. Now, at some point he did. So talked is past tense. We don't know when this... She's acting like he never told her. Like, that's what this... And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. But he did, though. Like, not right away. This is the funny thing. So you met him at work. It was just talking pretty casual. Yeah, because you just met him at work. And then she says, and every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. Like, hi, I'm Nikki. I work in the office. Oh, hi, I'm Chris. I'm in a relationship. Are you joking? Like, it's so ridiculous. That's what she's saying, though. Every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me. Like, because she already knew. Like, she already knew he was. And then every time she spoke to him, she's probably waiting for him to say, but why would he just say that when you just meet someone? That's so kind of like rude. I've had male friends at work that were not single, and some were married and some were in relationships, and some I didn't know if they were in relationships or not. And when I would be talking to these people, I didn't expect them to disclose their relationship status every time I talk to them, or like the first time or the second time, or like, it's a ridiculous thing to say. Okay, so he didn't even mention his kids, right? Hang on, I'm not finished with this one yet. That's just a note I've left on top. So all right, let's go through this one. And so just accumulative, adding, continuing on. Every time indicates the quantity of, or frequency or length of time she and him talked at work, right? Every time is like multiple. Every time indicates lots of times, not just like both times. Or when I talked to him at work might indicate less times because she hasn't mentioned the times in those. So every time indicates lots of times, all right? Every time indicates, like I said, the quantity, but it indicates like a higher quantity. I talked to him, not every time we talked, and not every time we spoke. Talked sounds you don't have a speak with someone, you have a talk with someone, right? If you speak to someone, it's sort of shorter. It can sound more official, it can sound more professional. Talked is less sort of official and professional. So if I need to speak to you, I need to talk to you. Do you understand the difference there? It's not my opinion or my assumption that I'm putting on these words. This is what these words, this is their meaning, right? And she's chosen these words. So she didn't speak to him at work. She talked to him, okay? So that indicates, I think, like a deeper level. Maybe just for her. This is not his language. This is her language. I think she felt like she knew him and or wanted to know him better, right? Which, again, I think shows an intention, which came up in the last one as well. Which again, makes me think that she saw him somewhere, came across him somewhere. He didn't meet her. He didn't know who she was, but she knew who he was. And there was an intention that she kind of set her sights on him. This is sort of backing that up again as well. So I talked to him, not we spoke, which I just said. This may indicate her pursuit of him, which is what I just said. See, these are my notes from before, but as I'm saying it now, I'm analysing it sort of in my head as we go, and then I'm coming back to my notes to see if I've missed anything, right? And these are all the things I've picked up last time as well. Was she instigating these interactions? I talked to him. Not every time we ran into each other at work, every time we came, you know, we went past each other, ran into each other, whatever. Every time I talked to him, with intention, could indicate that she was instigating these interactions. And from memory, this comes up later and it's confirmed. Something else comes up later that confirms it, because she says something about it was kind of hit or miss if we would see each other in the hallway. Now, you can only hit or miss something you're aiming for, right? So I think she was trying to instigate these interactions between he and her, because there was an intention. He wasn't in a relationship, okay? He didn't tell her he was, and every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't mention he was in a relationship, or it didn't come up he was in a relationship. He didn't tell me. She already knew. He didn't tell her, right? She already knew. She's waiting for him to tell her. He didn't tell her. That's what she's saying here. He didn't tell me. You knew, though. That's why you knew he didn't tell you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That he was in a relationship. He wasn't in a relationship. He was married. That is massively, massively minimizing his marriage to Shanann. She doesn't even want, he's not married to her. She has so much trouble acknowledging that he was married to Shanann. She hates Shanann so much. Because I've already analyzed a lot further on than what I'm doing now, and I know what the brain knows, what it knows, right? So I know what I've already analyzed. I know what I've already seen in the other language. So she hates Shanann. But this is where it starts to leak out. This is where it starts, okay? This is where we begin to see the language of just utter hatred and just refusal to accept, like, Shanann. Refusal to accept his marriage, that he was married to Shanann, that he had a wife. She doesn't like to mention that. She doesn't like to say that out loud. She doesn't like to think it. She doesn't like to even acknowledge it in her own brain. And that will come out more. We will see more of that. So this is the first indication of that, right? This is the first, and I suppose that is a pattern as well that comes out. Just her utter, I'm trying to think of the right word, but yeah, she doesn't want to even acknowledge his marriage and his actual relationship with Shanann. She likes to think of Shanann as he doesn't want her, like he's discarding her because she's rubbish. She's not better than me. She's not as good as me. Like, he prefers me. Shanann's his wife. She's number one. And she hates this. So this is minimizing, but it's excessively, like, it's extremely minimizing. She's minimizing a marriage to a relationship. It's just can't with this woman. It's like, what, 2 minutes in and she's just already so horrible. I have back issues, by the way, so I'm just so sore today. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's carry on. It's her. She's making me feel uncomfortable and she's making my pain worse. She's reducing his marriage to a relationship. Also, why would he mention it every time? If it was just casual talking at work. Oh man, this woman. Who does she think she is? That he should disclose his status to her, like when they're just speaking at work in the they just met and it's just casual talking at work. But he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. Why? Why would he? How odd would it be? Like, you'd report this person to HR. If you just met someone at work and they kept saying to you, like, I'm not available, I'm in a relationship, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you know, but I'm actually in a relationship. And you're like, oh, hi, Jack, how's it going? And they're like, yeah, it's good. My wife and I, you know, went out on the weekend because I'm in a relationship. And you're like, okay. Okay. It's always good talking to you, Jack. See you later. So odd. But she's saying it like it's like we're on the same page. She's saying it like, and he didn't. And every time I ran into him at work and we barely knew each other, he didn't tell me his relationship status. Every time. And she's expecting us to go, oh, Chris. Oh, wow. This guy, Chris, is just despicable. Which he is, but not for that. She's so funny, but she doesn't know she's funny. After initially meeting at work as casual colleagues, and the same goes for his kids. Why would he tell a casual new work colleague that he has a wife and kids during casual work interactions? Like, yeah, it might come up. It might come, like the wife and kids thing might come up. Oh, what did you do on the weekend, Jack? Oh, me and the wife took the kids out to the park. Or we took the kids to the park. We would indicate him and his partner, him and someone else took the kids to the park. Their kids. That's probably how it could come up. But other than that, it's like, why? He doesn't have to tell you that, Nichol. You weirdo creep. This could support the possibility that Nichol was pursuing him from the start. Yes, so like I said, she already knew. She was waiting for him to tell her. She was trying to see if it came up. Probably what she was doing, right? This isn't analysis, but this is like sort of like contextual, sort of expected possibilities, right? So it's not actually analysis, but the analysis could, like, the analysis shows what it shows, all right? But the fact that it shows that she already knew, it indicates she knew, and she's sort of waiting for him to tell her, or trying to see if he would tell her. In her mind, right, which is warped, I don't know. She just seems like, she seems a bit crazy, allegedly, in my opinion. She's not right. She's not right in the head, because I'm not like a professional. I have no psychology qualifications, or I can't diagnose her, but the way she's speaking in this interview after what's happened, she's not right in the head, okay? Because anyone else would just be, oh my God, I can't believe that some man that I was seeing has done this. These poor children, this poor woman, please, I want to do everything I can to help you. Like, I will tell you everything, every single detail. Please, I want to help you. My God, this is horrific. Like, I just can't believe this. I'll do anything I can. I'll do everything I can. Right? That's what any normal person would think. But she's too busy trying to convince everyone that she had nothing to do with it. It's bonkers. She's bonkers, right? So in her bonkers mind, in her, what is it? Bunny boiling, Glenn Closing, I can't remember the name of that, Fatal Attraction. That's it. So she's Glenn Closing this, right? And she's all like, well, if he was interested in me, he wouldn't mention that he had a wife, right? If he if he mentions his wife and kids, then he's not interested. But he hasn't mentioned them, so he's definitely interested, right? Because that's what that would mean. Because if he wasn't interested, he would just tell me he was married, but he didn't. He didn't tell me like the first second I met him and every time following, he didn't tell me. So he obviously must really be interested in me. Just putting it out there, right? He didn't even mention his kids right away either. Oh, hang on. No, we haven't got to that bit yet. So this could support the possibility that she was pursuing him from the start, right? So because he didn't tell her every time she talked to him, then maybe he's interested in me. Because otherwise, why hasn't he told me about his wife that I already know he has, because I've been stalking him and I shouldn't know about because it's weird. Her intentions were always more than work colleagues. It backs that up. Her seemingly thinking that he should have mentioned his wife and kids immediately in that context is odd. It's bonkers, but it doesn't fit. It's odd, but it's bonkers, right? It sounds like she's describing meeting him in a bar or something where single men would be, or in the context of dating. It's odd. It sounds like she's describing meeting him on a dating site. And every time we talked, she didn't tell me he was married. I met him on a dating site. I assumed he was single. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense for work when you just meet someone. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. He didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. Every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. He didn't tell her. It didn't come up. I didn't know. He didn't mention it. No, he didn't tell me, right? He didn't tell me. He's the bad guy. She's the innocent one who he didn't tell. He didn't tell me, the victim. The bad guy didn't tell the victim, right? This is where this narrative starts to come out. I'm so innocent. I didn't know. I'm moral. I have really good values and I'm a really good, kind person. This is all this. This is this coming out, right? She's not saying that, but the analysis shows, because there's all of this. She didn't have to say any of this. She didn't have to say any of this. She could have just said, I didn't know he was married. But she can't say that because she did know, right? So unnecessary language is important. It's more important, right? In language analysis, in statement analysis, deception detection, forensic linguistics, whatever you want to call it, what people do say is important, right? What people don't say is also important. So the fact she didn't say that is important. And what she says instead, which is unnecessary, because she could have just said what she didn't say, what she did say instead is important. Because why did she choose to say this instead of this, right? So there's a reason she's saying this. She's not just, how do I say this? In language analysis, anything that is said for a reason. Everything that is said is relevant. Everything that is said is important. They don't just say stuff for no reason, okay? They don't say anything for no reason, right? If you're saying something for no reason, if you're listening and not watching, I just did air quotes, it's because you're saying this instead of something else. So this is still important, right? Because why are you saying this instead? And she's saying this instead because it's, how do I want to say? It's planting a seed. It's pushing a narrative, okay? All of this stuff is pushing these little underlying sort of undertones of he's the bad guy, this is his fault, I'm innocent. That's what all this is, okay? So he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. And he didn't even mention his kids right away either. That's all. It's not saying any of the things that she thinks she's saying. It's not saying he didn't tell me he was married. He didn't tell me he had kids. What she's saying is, he didn't this, he didn't that. It's not my fault. I didn't know. I'm the innocent one, right? He didn't even mention his kids right away either. Even is kind of like it's an emphasis. It's like it makes something, it compounds something, right? Or reduces something, but in a compounding way, it reduces it. Does that even make sense? So it compounds something's importance, or it compounds something's, what's the opposite of importance? So he didn't even mention his kids right away either. Like, he did this, he did this, he did this. He didn't tell me he didn't wear a wedding ring. He didn't tell me he was married. Every time that I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. It's like an additional, but like emphasis. You know what I mean? Like, even. Can you believe this guy? Right? It's kind of like that. So he didn't even mention his kids right away either. And I love how she says right away. Because he did mention them. He did mention them, but he's, I do think he's a weirdo, creep, sort of freak, like psycho, pathetic, etc., etc. But, like, a normal person wouldn't either. So, like, yeah. No, yeah, he didn't mention them right away when you were just talking at work casually, because you just met him in the hallway. Yeah, he probably didn't tell you about his kids right away either. And either is sort of similar to even. It compounds, and it emphasizes. So it's like, and it's sort of how am I trying to, I don't know what I'm trying to say. We'll see. It comes up again later. If I can find the words in my brain, we'll explain it. I'm just doing this like literally in one take. I have no editing skills. I have no scripts or anything like that. So sometimes I have, that like I blank out with words and stuff. I have like really bad anxiety, and I've had some past trauma, and I have issues with my memory sometimes, which is frustrating. And sometimes I just blank out with words, and I just can't think of the word I'm trying to say or whatever. So I'm sorry if that's bothering anyone. It bothers me more than anyone else. So if I can handle it, you can. So now she did Google him as well. We know that she Googled Shanann before she met Chris. So that confirms the fact she did know he was married, and probably knew he had kids as well, because Shanann's Facebook and her social media was covered with her family and her kids. So it sounds like, so he didn't even mention his kids too, right? Because she can't even acknowledge Shanann because she hates her so much. So he didn't even mention his kids right away either. They're his kids too. It's very distancing. It's very reductive, like minimizing, like his kids over there, these kids. In statement analysis is very much focused on context as well. So when we talk about the expected and the unexpected, and what's expected, someone would say, like, I didn't know he was married. That's expected language. What she says instead is unexpected, because it's not what's expected, right? So it makes it unexpected. Or just really obscure stuff or really odd stuff that doesn't fit. That would be unexpected too. His kids. Sometimes we have to stop Because this isn't like, they are his kids, right? She doesn't know them. She didn't know them at the point in the story that she's talking about them. That he had kids might be a better way to say that than his kids, right? Because if she's talking about it in the past, that he didn't tell her that he had kids, that he didn't even mention that he had kids either, would be a better way to say that. He didn't even mention his kids. Again, leads me to believe she knew he had kids. She knew he was married. She knew he had kids because they were his kids. It wasn't that he had kids, right? He didn't even mention his kids either. So she knew, right? And right away, so another narrative or pattern that is repeated, there's the two top ones. I think I mentioned this in the last video, but I don't know if I mentioned the second one. So the first one is, like I've said, her narrative. Poor me, innocent me. I'm such a good person. I have morals and values, and I'm kind, and I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that, and I'm so, you know, good and innocent and nice, and I'm a victim here, right? That's the first narrative that she pushes constantly. And the second one is that she plays with the timeline, okay? Anytime someone mentions time, then they have time on their mind. And they have time on their mind. I don't want to say, there's no absolutes, right? Because everything is in context. Everything is relative to the language and the context of the situation. Everything is analysis. We don't make assumptions. We don't have opinions. But when someone has time on their mind, it's sensitive to them. So it may be that they don't want to reveal a timeline, because it may be that revealing a timeline could be bad for them. And it may be bad for them because they might have been involved in something. And it may be that that something was a crime. It may be because they're lying, and a timeline would give them away, would prove the lie. So that's another thing. And this is, I think this is the first time it comes up. But right away is a reference. I'm just wiggling. I'm knocking the table and it's making my camera shutter. Right away is a reference to time. Right away. He didn't mention them right away. It's a time reference. Now, she mentions time constantly. And when someone mentions time constantly, it may be that they're playing with time, and it may be that they're playing with a timeline, and it may be that the timeline they're giving you and the times that they're giving you are not correct. And so it would call their timeline and the times they're giving you into question. And she does this. I am not joking. It is constant. It is constant. This is one of the reasons, the main reasons that I believe that she was aware of Chris, she knew of Chris before she tells us that she did. In the first sentence when she says about when she met him. Oh no, that was the first reference to time. That was when it, oh my God, her very first sentence. She's playing with time. So here it is again, right away. I'm going to note this every time it comes up. You're going to get sick of hearing about it because it happens so much, and you're going to see, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, look how much she is mentioning time over and over and over again. And I think it's because she is not being honest about time. She is not being honest about the timeline, allegedly, in my opinion. So he didn't even mention his kids right away either. It sounds like she's trying to put the blame on him. right? He didn't have a wedding ring on. He didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. Him. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. So he did mention them. She's telling us he mentioned them. And he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship, but he didn't mention his kids. So the relationship is way, way more significant to her than the kids, right? Because he didn't tell me he had a relationship. He didn't mention his kids, okay? The relationship is the problem to her. I don't think the kids were that. I don't think she cared. Allegedly, in my opinion. I don't think she cared. I don't think she could care less about the kids. I think she probably figured Shanann wouldn't let him have the kids, and I think she thought that she would play mother to the kids, and, you know, she probably loved the fact that Shanann would hate it. She probably knew that Shanann would never want another woman around her kids, especially someone that her husband had an affair with. She would never want her around her kids anyway. So I don't think she was worried about the kids. I think she thought the kids were like, what do you call it? Like just something she could use. You know, make a big deal out of his kids, and he'll think she's so great because she loves his kids, and, you know, he loves his kids, so I'll pretend I love his kids, and then he'll love me because I love his kids. But he didn't love his kids because he did what he did to his kids. Oh, that's what I was going to say before. I go off on tangents and I don't even remember. Like, I go off on like a side track, and that track sometimes never comes back to where I was. Like, it just leads me down a different road, and it doesn't like circle round and circle back. But I've just remembered something that I was saying earlier, okay? His kids, when I've said about context, after what happened to these children and the reason she's in this room doing this interview, his babies. He didn't even mention his two beautiful little girls. He didn't even mention Bella and Cece. They're not his kids. After what's happened to them, after why she's in this room, the expected language when it comes to the kids, even saying it now to myself, talking about this, when I'm emphasizing the context, it doesn't feel right to say his kids. It feels like they need to be acknowledged. They need to be respected. And she's not doing that. She's not. He didn't even mention his kids. Oh, sorry. The kids that were horrifically unalived. I haven't got, this channel is new, so I want to be careful with my language. It's not what I want to say. That's not what I wanted to say. That's not how I want to word that, but look, if you're watching this video, you know what happened to Bella and Cece, right? Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. That's why we're here. That's why we are watching these videos, making these videos, doing these analysis, because of what happened to those little girls. Oh my gosh. It's easy to talk about when I'm not thinking about it, but when I think about it, it's horrible. So the fact that she's not, look at me, I didn't know these people. I didn't know these people. I just watched it like everybody else. I just got involved in this case, feeling like it's not over, feeling like that justice hasn't been served to these poor little girls and the beautiful Shanann, and it's not fair, and they haven't had their justice, because I believe that someone is involved that's just walking free out there that had something to do with it, and that's not justice. And look at me. Look at me. And this is her language. She doesn't care. So that's what I was talking about, context. His kids, he didn't even mention his kids right away either. Oh, sorry, which kids? Those two beautiful, tiny little babies that didn't deserve any of this, and what they must have gone through. Anyway, that's the last I'm going to say about that, because I need to calm down. We all know about this case. We all know what happened. We all feel like this. That's why we're here. And that's why we won't stop. So take that. You know who. Right, so he did mention them, just not right away. So, and why would he? So again, he is the bad guy. Look at this guy. Didn't even mention his kids right away. Yeah. No, that's reasonable. That's reasonable, Nicole. To not mention them right away, that's kind of okay. That's cool. So during their pretty casual talking at work, why would he need to mention his wife and kids right away? If they were just talking pretty casually at work. So did all of her colleagues disclose their relationship status and children right away to her at work? When just casually talking? Was she upset that Troy didn't tell her about his relationship status? Did everybody line up and tell Nicole whether or not they were in a relationship and whether or not they had children? She is so ridiculous. She is so ridiculous. She's saying this like, can you believe this guy? And it's like, yeah, that's normal, actually. You are bonkers. Either implies both, or like emphasis. Like, can you believe this guy, right? He didn't even tell me that either. What a joke. So it's implying that the preceding point or statement is equally positive or negative. So it's like piling on. It's like I said before, it's cumulative. It's, can you believe this guy, right? It's like an emphasis. It's like an exclamation point at the end. I can't even make sense of my notes sometimes, or even read my writing sometimes. Both negative, both infer, imply him hiding something, right? He was hiding. He didn't tell me about that. He didn't even mention this either. So he's hiding it then. Is that what she's trying to imply to us? That's what she's telling us. He didn't tell me this. He didn't tell me that. So he knew it. He was aware of it, but he didn't give you the information. So you're implying, you're pushing the narrative that it's because he was up to something. It's because he was hiding it. But he wasn't. Or he might have been, but he wasn't necessarily. In the context, it makes perfect sense and it's reasonable, right? He was being secretive. He was hiding something. Perhaps, like I mentioned before, this is what I said before, in her bonkers brain, right? Allegedly, in my opinion, in anybody's bonkers brain, right? In Glenn Close's bonkers brain, when she was boiling bunnies, he was interested in her, and that's why he was keeping it from her, right? But they were just casually talking at work. It doesn't make sense. Okay? It doesn't make sense. We're a minute and four. We're an hour and 4. I'm going to keep going. And if this is too long for you, if you don't have time, that's cool. Click off and come back later and carry on. Because This interview, we're only a few sentences in and we've already done 2 hours worth of recording. This is going to take a really long time. Like this is Watts Island stuff. This is people who want to know. This is people who want to know where to dig, people who want to know where to look, people who might eventually be involved in this case if it reopens or if it doesn't reopen. This is people wanting to find more information and find out what happened. People who want justice. This isn't content, all right? This isn't for views. It needs views. It needs the right people to see it. It needs as many people as possible to see it. But this is serious. This is serious. This is, where do we look for justice here, right? For this crime that's happened to finally be put to bed, to rest, and for Shanann and Cece and Bella and Nico to have the justice they deserve, for anyone who was involved in this to be, oh, I don't know if punished is the right word, but held accountable, at least. That's what this is for. So this isn't just some light-hearted, entertainment. This is, let's dig into this and let's leave no stone unturned. And anyone, if you've got anything you want to add, put it in the comments. I would ask that if you've got information, we'll come up with a little code, right? If you've got details or you've got something you want to add, maybe put an asterisk. If it's just a comment about this, about the video, that's fine. But if you've got if you want to add something, if you think you've picked up something that I've missed, put an asterisk and maybe put analysis, right? And then put your comment. And I will read it. There's no one watching right now. Probably, I don't know, hopefully people will see this video. Hopefully I'll get people subscribe and comment and do this with me and listen. And if you pick up anything, which you very well may pick up stuff I haven't seen, put it in the comments. I'll read it. If I think that you're right, not my opinion, but according to the rules and, the processes of analysis, if I read your comment and you have seen something in here that's valid, I will, maybe I'll pin the comment, but I will, when I go back and insert things later correctly where they belong in the interview, in language, I will insert that in there and I'll give you credit. I'll put your username or whatever. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, it is an hour-long video, and we've done, we've gone over a couple of sentences, but that's what we're doing. That is what we're doing. We're going to, we're going to spend hours and hours and hours and weeks and months going over this. And then if something happens down the line and this helped, brilliant. Brilliant. If something happens because we've done this, brilliant. I could not ask for anything better to happen. And if it doesn't, maybe it'll help in some way. Maybe it can help. Maybe it can lead to something else. Maybe it can lead to, someone coming forward and taking responsibility for their part in things. There's a few, well, there's at least 2 people that I know of that I want to hear from. So just saying. And neither of them are in prison right now. Okay, so I've just got one little note down here as well before we move on. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. So he mentioned them, just not right away, right? And we don't know what right away means to her. But he did mention them both eventually, because we know that he did, because we know that he did. And she says right away, so her language says that he did as well, just not right away. And we don't know what right away means. So we don't know the time frame from when she started talking to him at work, met him at work, and when he told her. We don't know what that time frame is. But whatever that time frame is, right, is right away. So whatever that time frame is right away. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 2 days. We don't know what that is. But in her mind, in her language, he didn't mention them right away. He could have mentioned them after 10 minutes. And he didn't mention them right away. We don't know how long right away is. She doesn't tell us. She's withholding time. She's withholding the timeline. She doesn't want to tell us the timeline. Why? Why, Nichol? Allegedly, in my opinion. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. Oh my gosh, she didn't tell me right away. And then one day he told me. This woman. Oh my God. She's unbelievable. And then, which is a jump over in time, right? So he didn't tell me right away. So right away and then is this time period, right? And then one day, doesn't say which day, just one day. And then one day, out of the blue. And then one day, he just told me. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. Not about Bella and Cece. We're not going to go into that again because I don't want to start crying. But he had 2 kids now. Then one day he told me he had 2 kids. So they're kids again. They're just kids. Okay. So, like I said before, I'm just reading through my notes here, okay? When is right away? Because the relationship was allegedly only 6 weeks or so long. When is, or how far in to the relationship is 1 day? When is 1 day? Apparently it wasn't right away. So the right away and then. He didn't tell me. And then. So the right away and the and then is the same time period, right? And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. Because the relationship was allegedly only 6 weeks or so, right? So how far in is 1 day? Apparently it wasn't right away. It sounds like she's trying to make it sound like he withheld information from her intentionally, or that he didn't want her to know right away, which again goes back to he's not telling me because he's interested, right? Or that she didn't know right away because she did. But how far in is 1 day? Is it like the next day? Because it could be. It could be the next day. It could be after lunch that day. She didn't say, you know, a few days later or a couple of weeks later. She says, and then 1 day. It could have been the same day. Like, it could have been. I don't think it was the same day. It wasn't the first day that they spoke, because every time he didn't tell her they had kids. See, every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship, and he didn't even mention his kids right away either. But I think he told her he had kids before he told her he was married. And that's not my opinion. Like, when I say I think, it's not me guessing. It's what is coming from the language, right? But everything I say in this video is my opinion and alleged. But when I say I think, it's the analysis, right? So he didn't, every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. He didn't even tell me about his kids right away either. So the kids is like an add-on, but he did tell her he had kids. And the way she says it, he didn't even tell me right away. So she's saying he did tell her. So he didn't, every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. And he didn't even tell me about his kids right away. So I think he told her he had kids first. Right? And I think that's what this is saying. Because she doesn't say, and then one day he told me he was married. She says, and then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. So she's just said he didn't tell her he was married. He didn't tell her he had kids. And then one day he told me he had 2 kids. So yeah, he did tell her about the kids first. And this is my opinion. This is not from the analysis. This is my opinion. I think that's because he was interested. I do think that he didn't tell her he was married on purpose. I do think he was withholding that. And I hate it. I hate it that I think she's right. Because I think that's what she thought. I think that's what she thought because she knew he was married already and he didn't tell her. And I think she thought that meant he was interested. And I think it did mean he was interested in this case. Because he told her he had kids first. And I think, okay, so I don't necessarily, and this is my opinion again, this is not analysis, this is my personal opinion. I don't think necessarily that he didn't tell her because he was interested in pursuing something. I think he didn't tell her because he was enjoying the attention. And I think that he thought that she was interested, and she was. And I think that he thought that if he told her he was married, that she would back off. And I don't think he wanted her to. So whether or not he actually initially was thinking along the lines of an affair in the beginning, I don't necessarily think that. I don't even necessarily think that he thought that was even possible because, like, I just think he was such a douche. And, like, I think he was such a douchebag and a doofus. And hearing him speak, he was punching so high above his weight. Do you know what, with Shanann? Because she was really smart. She was a lot of things. She was ambitious. She was smart. She was driven. She was like strong. She was like a powerhouse. She was such an amazing woman from what I know of just through this case from Watts Island, right? I didn't know her, but people loved her. Like her friends loved her. And I don't know how he managed to score. Do you know what I think? This is my opinion as well, just from watching all of the content I've watched and Zawoki, and there's another channel I want to shout out, which is True Crime Footnotes, and they're like a new channel, but I like them. And also Behind Criminal Minds is very, very good. He's done a lot of he's been really good for the Watts case too. He's done a lot of other cases, but he's done some really good stuff on the Watts case. I really like his channel. And True Crime Footnotes as well is a new one I really like. There's some others I will mention. But yeah, just from what I've seen on, like, mostly Zawoki does so many videos. And that's, like, I'm not saying... There's probably other channels that have done more, but I like him and I watch him. And I've learned a lot of what I know from his channel, and I think he's one of the more knowledgeable channels because he's got a lot of subscribers and he's had a lot of people contact him with information, so he just knows a lot more than some other people do, right? And Shanann just seemed amazing, like an amazing person, and I think, like I said just before. I've had some trauma in my life, right? So I've got sort of anxiety and like PTSD and stuff like that from what's happened. And from what I know of Shanann, she had like a difficult divorce or whatever. So she was married once before, and apparently things ended badly or whatever. And I don't know how he treated her. I don't know if that was a good or a bad relationship. But what I do know is that when you've been in a bad relationship and you've had someone treat you badly, someone not doing that is powerful, right? It's kind of everything. So when you've had someone that's made you feel and treated you a certain kind of way, when someone doesn't treat you like that and they treat you well and they make you feel good, that's everything, right? And just simply someone being kind is a massive thing. So I think Chris has social difficulties. I think I don't think he's completely right. I don't know if it's like sociopathy or psychopathy or whatever it is, where you can't feel feelings, like you don't actually feel feelings like a normal person. Because he Googled like, how does it feel when someone says I love you? And I have an opinion on that too. I'm just going to interject into myself. I think he Googled that not because he wanted to know how it felt when someone loved him, because he knew how that felt, whether he felt feelings about it or not. He knew how that made him feel, however that was, right? And I'm not going to speculate on how it was, but however it made, because he knew Shanann loved him and he had 2 kids, and kids love their parents. So he knew how it felt to be loved, right? He knew how it felt when someone says I love you, because Shanann said she loved him. So he knew how that felt. I think he Googled that because he was writing some bullshit card or letter to Nichol. And he needed to, like, maybe if he doesn't feel things like normal people, or he's not that smart, so he doesn't know how to articulate it for himself, I think he Googled that to get, like, Google to come up with some response on how when someone loves you, it makes you feel like a generic, like a Hallmark card or something. So he could then write it down to in a letter or a card for Nichol. That's what I think. But I think that because he doesn't know how to behave, and he doesn't know how normal people act, and he doesn't know how normal people feel, I think he behaved in the way that he thought he should. I think he behaved in a way that he thought he should in the relationship with Shanann, which is like, where would you get that from if you didn't know for yourself? If you were kind of going through life acting things out, you'd get it from like movies, all of the places that you see people being in a relationship, right? So I think he was copying that. And I think that's why he was so attentive and he was so loving and he was so, like, I think that's why he did that, because he thought that's what you do, right? And I think that's why she decided she wanted to be with him, because of the way he treated her. But that wasn't him treating her like that. That was him, like, playing a role, because I don't think he really felt things properly. I don't think he felt things like normal people. So he was kind of copying and playing that role. Apparently he had almost a photographic memory. So I think he memorized stuff. I think he copied stuff. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. yeah. So, yeah, I think that's why Shanann was with him, because of the way he treated her. And then when he found Nikki, he just stopped treating her like that. Because he just decided he kind of maybe wanted to be with Nikki now. So he just stopped. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was talking about before I went off on that tangent. So let's just carry on. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. There we go. See? He didn't even mention his kids right away. His kids. The kids that she knew that he had, right? And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. So this is where he told her that he had 2 kids. And that's how he said it, right? Which is exactly what I said before. This is the expected way to say that. So, and then one day, and then is a jump over in time. They call it a temporal lacume. I don't know if I've said that right. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. It's very late here. That he had 2 kids. So, when is right away, right? Oh, we've gone through this. Okay. It's deliberately vague, all right? He didn't want her to know right away. Yeah, that's right, because I think he liked the attention of this new woman, because, yeah, I don't think he probably got attention very often, and he just lost all this weight, right, as well. So he's probably feeling pretty good about himself, and then he got this attention, and he liked it, and I don't think he wanted it to stop. And I think he thought if he told her he was married, then maybe the attention would stop. So maybe I think she's right in if she thought that he wasn't telling her right away because he was hiding it. I think he kind of was a little bit. Yeah. He didn't want her to know. He withheld information from her intentionally, or that he didn't want her to know right away, or that she didn't know right away, but she did. She knew before. But how far in is one day, right? It is deliberately vague. So another reference to time. It implies not early on. It does. She's trying to make it, I think she's trying to make it sound longer than it probably was, because the whole relationship was only 6 weeks, according to her. So one day has to be relatively early on in 6 weeks. So, you know, it can't be too long, but she's trying to make it sound like one day gives the impression that it's some time, right? And random as well, like one day, like out of nowhere. Persuasion has a need to persuade, like I said earlier. Either she knew about his kids before he told her, which I believe she did, or she wants to give the impression that he withheld information. Well, I think it's both, right? Because that's her narrative, that he didn't tell her, because he's the bad guy and she's the victim. The need to persuade means she wants to persuade for a reason, rather than just say he told me he had kids about so many weeks in, like whenever it was. Instead of telling us when he told her or mentioned his kids, rather than just saying when he told her, she wants it to sound a certain way, like that it took ages for him to tell her, that he didn't want to tell her, right? That's why she's saying it the way she's saying it. So what she didn't say was when he told her, right? So in statement analysis, what's important is what people don't say and also what they do say. She didn't tell us when he told her he had kids. She's telling us when, but without telling us when. So she's not telling us when, but her telling us when is saying one day he told me. Well, that's not specifically when, right? So she's being vague. She doesn't want to tell us. She's not telling us she can't remember. She's not telling us, I don't remember exactly when, but it was around about here. She's not even attempting to tell us when. She doesn't want to tell us when. She wants us to think it's one day. Didn't tell me right away. Told me one day. She wants us to think he was hiding information. I don't think he was about, well, a little bit to a certain extent, but don't think he was really hiding information from her. He probably told her whenever it came up, which is the normal thing to do, honestly. And I don't like him or think he's normal, but that is the normal thing to do. To one day tell her. That is reasonable. She's trying to make it sound like it's not reasonable. She's trying to make it sound suspicious. She's trying to steer us in a certain direction about our feelings about Chris. And that leading us in the direction of where he's suspicious and he's hiding something and he's the villain automatically makes her the victim. And this is where her narrative keeps coming in. And she's pushing and pushing, which is suspicious. And you have to push for a reason. Rather than just saying when he told her, like I said, she wants it to sound a certain way, to paint it in a particular light. She doesn't mention his relationship here either. So he told her about the kids first. Just that he told her he had 2 kids. When did he tell her he was married? Well, later this comes up. In context, it would be expected that the relationship would be relevant here, and it would. It would be a natural follow-up or be mentioned in the context of the children when you're casually speaking with someone, when you're just casually just talking with someone at work, a work colleague. My wife and kids would normally sort of be lumped together. So I do think that the fact that he separated them does indicate that he was interested, at the very least, enjoying the attention, because he could tell that she was interested, or he suspected or thought maybe she might be interested. So it would be expected that the wife and children would be brought up together, right? It's odd that they weren't. But she doesn't mention it. She also said he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. Again, she knew he was married. She knew he had kids. Implies there is one, but it's not on his finger, as opposed to he didn't have one, or, you know, he wasn't married. She knows he was married, and so not wearing allows for having but not wearing. Doesn't mean he doesn't have one. It means he's not wearing it. Would make sense in the context of her saying it now, looking back. I would allow for and be open to the possibility that she knew he was married before he told her. This fits with the language around the children. Every time he talked to me, he didn't tell me he was in a relationship. This supports the biased, persuasive, and accusatory language noted already. Every time we talked, he didn't tell me. It's a very odd way to say what she's saying. I didn't know, or I didn't find out until such and such that he was married or had kids, had a family. She's not saying she didn't know. She's saying he didn't tell her, right? So we can't assume that she didn't know, because she's not telling us that. She's alluding to that. She's saying other things that will make us think that, but we can't think that because she hasn't told us that, right? If the subject can't say something for themselves, we cannot say it for them. She hasn't told us she didn't know he was married with kids already. She hasn't told us that. It's also, so she didn't say she didn't know. She's saying he didn't tell her, and that's not the same thing. It's also not the simplest, shortest, fastest way to say that. So she is using all these extra specific words for a reason, right? Extra and unnecessary words are always important. 2 conclusions I am noting as themes and patterns to look out for here from this analysis, I guess. Sometimes I don't make sense. in my notes. I'm like, I'm writing so fast because I'm trying to write as I'm thinking it. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to read. So this is where I've noted the 2 patterns, right? We're only a few sentences in and I've already seen these 2 patterns and themes. So 1, she's using accusatory language, right? He didn't tell me. He didn't even mention such and such either. He didn't tell me right away. He this, he that, right? It's accusatory language, perhaps likely to indicate an attempt to what's the word I'm looking for? Perhaps likely to indicate an attempt to influence the listener, to lead us to a certain conclusion, right? To influence us. She's unwilling, and number 2, she's unwilling to say she didn't know he was married or had a family prior to him telling her. Also 2 kids rather than, oh yeah, I've mentioned the context here, the 2 little babies, 2 little girls, their names. Given the context, this is distancing. She doesn't want to get close to those feelings. She wants to push that. She wants to keep them as his kids, just his kids, not these beautiful little girls that have been what's happened to them. She doesn't want to get close to that. She wants to keep that away from her, right? And yeah, so well, pattern number 2 is the timeline, just playing with time. So yeah, but maybe that comes up further in my notes, I'm not sure. Next sentence, I was like, that's pretty cool. She laughs and started telling me about his kids. So then one day he told me he had 2 kids. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids. Now here we go. Started or starting in language analysis means not completed. All right. So anytime anyone says they started something, then always be on alert and look for them actually completing that act or that whatever it is, because starting is not finishing, right? I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't know how to explain some of the things I'm feeling when I do this analysis, and I get this feeling and I'm just like, that's not pretty cool. That's not pretty cool. Like if someone tells you they've got kids, you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, oh, that's amazing. Oh, lucky you. You know, it's not, oh, that's pretty cool. That's not a genuine response. I think that's a response like she's trying so hard. She tried so hard to push out a positive response to that, I think. But that's not necessarily what she said, because she said I was like. So she didn't say what she said. That's not what she said. We don't know what she actually said. Wouldn't it be amazing to find out? Like if you were a fly on the wall or something, and you heard her having these conversations and you could hear what she was saying. Rabbit Hole Rocks did this video and it was Nicole and Chris at the lazy dog planning what they were planning, and she's had like it was a little visual, and she had Chris sitting there with his googly eyes, and then Nicole sitting there like the voice she does for Nicole is like Terrence and Phillip, if you've seen South Park. And I can't even tell you how hard that made me laugh when she's like, and what Nicole's saying, and I'm just like, that is so funny. Oh, that's so funny. That's probably exactly what she said. I mean, it's not what she sounds like, because she doesn't sound like Terrence and Phillip, because she does the vocal fry and nobody can stand it, and her voice is so annoying. Oh, it's so annoying. Anyway, oh my gosh, my throat. Like I've been talking for an hour and a half already. Okay. So she didn't say that's pretty cool. She was like, that's pretty cool. We don't know what she said. I don't know. From what I get from her, I feel like because she's definitely a manipulator, right? Because she's trying to manipulate the listener, the interviewer, whoever's listening to this, whoever she's answering to. She's trying to manipulate us, that she's innocent, she's the victim, and Chris is the bad guy, and she's hiding time, and she's playing with the timeline. She doesn't want to give us any information. She's pretending she wants to, like, she's such a manipulator. So that's pretty cool. Like, I think she probably said something like super fake to try and pretend like she was not bothered by it, like not sort of angered. Well, she already knew, right? So she had to act surprised. So she was saying something that was fabricated anyway. So she was being fake either way, right? So she had to pretend that she didn't know. So she had to pretend to be surprised and go, oh, that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, so she feigned surprise and she feigned enthusiasm. That's what I think. That's my opinion. That's not analysis. But we know that she didn't say this, because she's not saying she said this. She said, I was like, that's pretty cool. What even is that? Like, what even is that? Let's move on. And started telling me about his kids. So I was like, that's pretty cool, and started telling me. So she's dropped the pronouns in here, which is a red flag. Anytime someone drops pronouns, it's distancing. It's sensitive to them. She didn't like it when he told her this. She didn't like it that he told her. I reckon she was disappointed that he told her, because she thought maybe he was telling her. So because she thought him not telling her meant that he was interested in her, right? This is my opinion. This is what I think. Not analysis. This is my personal opinion. Allegedly. I reckon she was happy that he hadn't mentioned the kids and the wife, right? Because she thought it was because he was interested. And it probably to some extent was, okay? And then I reckon when he told her about his kids here, she was disappointed. I don't think she liked it. I think she was disappointed. And that's why I was like, that's pretty cool. And that's why she had to feign enthusiasm, because she had to feign surprise because she already knew, and she had to feign enthusiasm because she was disappointed. And that's why she's dropped the pronouns here, because it's sensitive to her. She's struggling to get it out. She's trying to distance like mad because she hated this. She hated when he told her about his kids. And then he started telling her about his kids, and she didn't want to hear about it. She didn't want to hear about his kids with this other woman, right? I don't think she wanted to hear this at all. She was not happy at all. And started telling me about his kids, and then I think she changed the subject. That's why he started. I reckon she changed the subject. She didn't want to hear about it. Now I'm going to go through my analysis here. I don't know how long I'm going to keep going. We're nearly at 2 hours. I might stop after this one at least for the video. Even if I continue on tonight, I'm not sure, but in another video. So we'll just do this one and then we'll finish the video. I'm not convinced that she thinks it's positive information. That's what I've written down here. I'm not convinced at all. Pretty is a qualifier as well. I was like is, so she says like a lot, but so when people say like you take a baseline of someone's language, you don't really need a baseline in statement analysis. You don't need one. You can just take a statement from someone you've never seen or heard speak before and analyze it, because it's the words they choose in that statement that you're analyzing. It doesn't have anything to do with anything else. If someone says like a lot, it doesn't matter, because where it comes up, it doesn't matter what, when or where they're speaking or what they're speaking about. That language will be there, and it will come up when it comes up. And where it comes up for a reason, right? So as I said in the last video, I'm Australian, and I'm from a generation where the slang that we had when I was growing up, like, I just said it then, like, has came and went, right? So kids now aren't saying what I was saying when I was a kid, but people my age are still saying what we used to say when we were kids. So there's this thing in the part of Australia that I'm from, and it was on a t-shirt for a while, and it's pretty great. I actually really should get one of these t-shirts. But we used to say heaps good. Heaps good. Oh, that was heaps good. Oh, that was heaps fun. Right? So that's just something we used to say. And I still say that now sometimes. And we said like a lot when I was growing up. When I was a child, that was when that first sort of came in. So we would say like all the time. And I find myself saying that sometimes a lot. And after listening to Chris and Nicole's interviews, I can't stand it anymore. So I've really actively tried to stop saying it. Like, I've just said it again. See? A lot. And it comes when I'm... So when I will do an analysis, right? And then they say I was like is like, as in the meaning of the word. It's not that thing. It's like that thing. So if I was like, that's pretty good. I wasn't, that's pretty good. She wasn't thinking that. She wasn't saying that, because she was like saying that. But also, it lacks commitment. It lacks confidence. So whenever you see like, what's coming is not said with conviction, right? It's kind of like as in similar to, it's kind of similar to sort of, right? I was sort of, that's pretty cool. So it's a qualifier as well. So it reduces whatever they're about to say. It diminishes their conviction, right? So even though she says this all the time and people are like, oh, you know, that's her baseline, doesn't matter, because where she uses it is important. Because there's gonna come areas in her statement where she doesn't say that, because she's saying something with conviction, right? So it doesn't matter that she says it all the time. In the places where she's saying it all the time, she's talking a little bit of crap. You know, she might be, what is it, filibustering? Have anyone seen Parks and Rec? Filibustering? She's sort of doing that. She's like doing that. So it doesn't matter, right? And the fact that she said it here just means that she's just reduced whatever she's about to say, which is, that's pretty cool. She didn't think that at all. You know? She wants us to think. And then pretty cool as well is another qualifier. So she's really pushing it to get us to believe that one. But like I said at the start, we believe what they tell us. And she's telling us by using qualifiers, by using like and pretty, that that's not what she really thought. She's telling us that. So we believe her, right? If she had said here, and I said, that's pretty cool, then she definitely said that, because she's telling us, I said, that's pretty cool. But because the pretty is still in there, I don't think she really meant it. So I think she was feigning her enthusiasm for that, right? She doesn't think it's really that cool because she likes him. But do you see what I mean? In that if you take the like out of there, and it was a different sentence that didn't have that, it was, and I said, that's pretty cool. But if you said, I said, like, that's pretty cool, it diminishes the I said. It reduces it a little bit. It lacks conviction a little bit. Maybe that's not quite what she said. Maybe that's not quite what she meant. She's not saying that with conviction. Does that make sense? She might be paraphrasing what she said. So she might have said something, but maybe that's not quite it, right? So I'm not convinced that she thinks that's positive information at all. She qualifies with pretty cool, which we've just gone through. Cool isn't an expected word for exciting or pleasing information. I said that before. Cool isn't like, cool is like, all right, like, sure, cool, it was good. It's not something like enthusiastic. And the pretty lessens that again, okay? Cool, like awesome, amazing, great, wow, cool. No, cool is like, yeah, nice. It's not like, I've got 2 kids. Oh, that's great. Like, awesome. Like, I said it again. Oh my gosh. Please don't start listening to me saying that over and over and get annoyed. I'm going to try not to say it, but like I said, it's in my baseline. It's something that I say because of where I live and when I grew up, right? So this is another thing with statement analysis. You should have people, you should always do statement analysis in the first language of the speaker. Okay, so if the person speaking, like for instance, Nichol, just say she was French, you should have someone like a native French speaker, someone who grew up there, someone who knows the language and the culture doing the analysis. Now you can do the analysis that's in like translated, but it's not going to be an accurate analysis like it would be if you had a native speaker of the same language, because there's things like culture and environment that will change people's language. And someone, like I said, you don't assume or have an opinion. So we've got phrases that we say in Australia that people have never heard before. Some of them are on YouTube. It's quite funny to listen to other countries hearing phrases that we have here and like just laughing. Yeah, we do some odd things here, but when I'm analyzing language and that comes up, I can analyze that. I know what that means. Someone else might analyze it in a wrong way because they don't understand that it's something to do with my culture and something to do with where I live and when or where I grew up. So, but English is pretty good. English is pretty standard, and as long as you don't have any of those sort of phrases or slang sort of terms that we use in different specific areas, you should be okay. And it shouldn't affect the analysis too much because there'll be so much other content to analyze that it won't really make a big difference. You still get an accurate analysis. So where were we? Pretty cool isn't too excited. He started telling me about his kids. Did he not finish? Was he shut down or interrupted? Or is that leakage that she shut it down in her mind and wasn't listening because she was thinking how disappointed about it she was? So he started telling me about his kids. Yeah, well, and I wasn't listening. I stopped listening. So he started telling me and I stopped listening. Or maybe she literally interrupted him and changed the subject. He told me about them would be more expected. Yeah, and he told me about them. Told me all about them. Because it's in past tense as well. So he started in past tense. So he didn't, it wasn't like, and he told me about them. No, and he started telling me about them. It's because it's in past tense, but it's not completed. Does that make sense? So it's odd. So this is some distancing language around the kids because they aren't them once introduced. Yeah, okay, yep. They're still his kids. So when it comes to sort of articles, all right, so a good example is I bought a new water bottle. Okay. I bought a new water bottle. And then when I got thirsty earlier, I couldn't find the water bottle. It's a water bottle when it's being introduced, when it's the first time in the introduction of it. It's a water bottle. I bought a water bottle. After it's been introduced, it's the water bottle, right? Because you know what water bottle is being referred to, okay? So it would sound strange to say, I bought a water bottle, a new water bottle, and then I got thirsty earlier and I couldn't find a water bottle. It's not the water bottle. A water bottle could be any water bottle, right? It's not referring to the water bottle that we just introduced. The same thing can go when you're introducing people. So this is my husband, Frank. My husband, Frank, would like a drink. That sounds stupid, right? This is my husband, Frank. Frank would like a drink. You've dropped my husband. You've just referred to him as Frank because he's known as the husband, right? This is my husband, Frank. We've introduced him properly with who he is and how he's related to me, okay? This is my husband, Frank. Frank would like a drink, okay? Then he drinks whiskey. Not, this is my husband, Frank. Frank would like a drink. Frank drinks whiskey. Like, you could say Frank again, but every time you mention what you've just or who you've just introduced, you can reduce the introduction, if that makes sense, because we know who we're referring to. This is my husband, Frank. Frank would like a drink. He drinks whiskey. He'd like a whiskey. You could even say, this is my husband, Frank. He would like a drink. You can go straight to he because we know who he is, right? These are my kids. I'm always talking about them. These are my kids. They're my kids. I'm always talking about them. We know who them is. Them is my kids, right? So what does she say before? Where's that? And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids. She's mentioning them again, putting emphasis, not telling me about them. Okay, she's keeping them away. She's keeping them distance. They're not getting closer when she's introduced them because we know who they are. Now she can refer to them more casual. I suppose it's more affectionately because it's closer. the more, what would you call it? The more sort of, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like proper, the more proper, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but the more proper you introduce them, it's like less intimate. You know what I mean? Like less affectionate. It's colder. It's more professional. It's more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Do you know what I mean? She calls them his kids again. His kids, right? They're his kids. These kids, they're a problem for her. I was like, that's pretty cool, and started telling me about his kids. Drops the pronouns again. So weird. Yeah, so they're still his kids. So, and that's extra words too, because his kids instead of them. So she's adding an extra word. She's trying to keep them away, literally, in her language, and literally with an extra word to distance them away from her. So it's distancing. Even further to imply positivity, enthusiasm, or acceptance, she could have said his girls, his little girls, his, what do I call people's little kidlets? You know, your little kidlets. How's your little kidlets going? Not your kids. How's your kids? It's just less personal. It's less affectionate and intimate. You know what I mean? Rather than them. So instead of going to them, because of the context of why we're here again, even if she added more language, but the language was intended to be respectful to the girls because of what's happened to them, to be more caring about them, that would make sense because of the context of why we're here, what happened to them. So the fact that she doesn't reduce the introduction as she goes, she keeps it the same, his kids, his kids, his kids, keeping them over there, right? She doesn't make them a little bit closer by saying them. She's got the extra words in there with his kids instead of the one word. But even if she said his babies, his beautiful little girls, because of the way he's talking about them to her and what's happened to them since, just putting that extra effort in there, it would still indicate sensitivity around them, but the sensitivity would be, it would make sense because of the context. The sensitivity would be in I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. The sensitivity, instead of it being distancing because she doesn't want him to have kids with another woman, right? It would be to soften the language and refer to them respectfully and gently, because you know, to just respect their memory. So things can be sensitive for different reasons. That's why, you know, you might be able to tell where someone's lying and when they're lying, but you can't tell what they're lying about. So you can see what the sensitivities are, and in relation to the rest of the statement and what the analysis will show, it will show a sensitivity. But like I said, in the context, because statement analysis context is very important, the context could show you whether that's a red flag or it's just a reasonable sensitivity in this statement, in the context, right? So someone speaking a certain way when their child is missing, in the context of their child missing, would be expected. In the context of their child not being missing, it might be very odd. So it depends on the context of the language. So here, I would probably expect more language and a sensitivity there, but it would be to honor and respect their memory, not to distance, if that makes sense. So this, I don't like this. To give a warmer, and to be more warm and caring and close and familiar with the girls, with referring to the girls. Had he told her about them, as she said, she would know they were girls and could refer to them as girls, right? She could say his girls, which is more familiar. It's more affectionate. But she doesn't. They're still his kids. And he told me then one day he told me that he had 2 kids, and he started telling me about his girls. He started telling me about them still. It sounds, I don't know. Anyway. Given the circumstances and the context of the statement, using their names or a more intimate, gentler word would be a lot more respectful. And her unwillingness to use their names reflects more distancing rather than familiarity. Kevin interrupts. That sounded like a sarcastic comment. We've just gone over 2 hours. Wow, it doesn't feel like 2 hours. All right, so I'm going to stop this video here. Whether I carry on tonight or not, I'm not sure. But please like, subscribe, and share. As I said, I haven't even posted these videos yet, so it feels really weird saying that. I'm talking to literally nobody. But yeah, I can't wait to get stuck into this again with you. Thank you so much for coming back. If you watched the first video, I would love to hear from people in the comments. I'd love to know your opinions on the case. I would love to know your opinions on the analysis so far. Like I said, if you have anything to add, please put maybe two or three asterisks and then put analysis, and then start your comments so that I can just scroll, like I can see clearly what is like an analysis and what is just a normal comment. Yeah, I'd like to read through everything, and you know, seeing as I have no subscribers to start with, I'm sure that won't be too difficult or time consuming. So thank you very much for coming back, and I'll see you in the next one.